The Honourable Ben Dawkins.
Thank you, President. I just want to reflect this evening on a quote from Walter Scott, which is from the late 1700s, would you believe? And is it? Sir Walter, thank you, Honourable Dan Caddy. So one of a particularly famous quote of his in this regard was, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive." And this government is setting out to deceive and mislead our children into thinking it is possible to change their biological sex by a 20-minute visit to the GP. This government is abusing our children by misleading them, setting in place a chain of events, that those children may later regret. And I've spoken to doctors about that. And of course, I'm referring to the upcoming legislation. It is disgusting for a government to repeatedly lie to children to tell them that it is possible to change their sex. I am well qualified as anybody, being a parent of 2 teenage children. I have 3 nieces at the moment. Within that group, there's a couple of people questioning sexuality and so on, and very vulnerable. We know children are vulnerable at this stage, so we shouldn't be misleading them. We should be honest and factual. It is a chain of events that we're putting in place that we know people end up regretting. A friend of mine, her niece, at the age of 20, had a hysterectomy the other day because of the perception that she could change her biological sex. And this government is perpetuating that myth. There is a need for treatment for people with genuine gender dysphoria, and that is in place at Perth Children's Hospital. And we certainly don't need the government weighing into this by changing legislation in the way that they are with the birth certificate, to making and abolishing the Gender Reassignment Board and making so-called gender change possible with a 20-minute trip to the GP. It's a little bit like when people talk about a gateway drug. If you have a 16-year-old who knows that she can ask her parents to get permission to change her biological sex, not gender, biological sex on the birth certificate, then what will she be asking her parents for in a couple of years' time? Or when she becomes an adult? Will she be looking for her hysterectomy because she's been misled down this path? Surely honesty is always the best policy, I would have said, President. We know how vulnerable people are, and we know how much regret is associated with people undertaking surgery in this area.
The regret is less than 1%.
And it's about to get a lot worse. It's about to get a lot worse with the government putting in place this disgraceful disgraceful legislation, I should say.
Have you ever spoken to them, to this committee? Have you ever sat down and spoken?
I have. With the trans community, there is no issue with the trans community. Genuine gender dysphoria. Genuine gender dysphoria is already treated within our existing system, and there is a gender reassignment board for that purpose. What we're setting about here is denying biology and lying to people, including vulnerable children. That's what I'm interested in, is children. And I have spoken to people who actually support people with gender reassignment regret, if you like, or whatever that's called, transition regret. So I know it exists out there, but there's a lot more to come in this space. Obviously, with women's rights, the LG. Well, if
you vote again on the abortion reforms, against it.
If the minister,
support the rights of women to choose. So why are you talking?
The 20 to 23 week is nothing to do with women's rights. There's already abortion available before you changed it from 20 to 23 weeks. There's already abortion available, and there still is now. But there is a number of interest groups who've been in touch regarding the intrusion of biological men into women's spaces to my office in the last few weeks, as well as the LGB lobby groups
They want anti-trans from the UK and anti-trans.
well, they're here in Australia as well, and they've got a few things to say about the TQI, Honourable Peter Foster. So I don't know why everyone seems to think that there's a uniform group of people, the LBTQI, when there's actually the LBG have some serious problems with what the what is it called? With what the T's are up to in terms of trying to intrude into women's spaces and the like. But I'll have more to say about that in the coming weeks.
Are there any more